You've described what led up to it, but now let's talk about some of the preventative measures that you were able to put in place. You started to identify that you can work with different companies. Is there some kind of language or anything that you put in place to let them know, like, listen, I'm going to split my time a bit. Can you walk me through how that works and what it looks like?
Yeah, before I do, I just want to touch on one thing you said earlier, which was there was nothing you could have said when you got in that room with HR to walk back their decision to lay you off. And I think I would like to challenge that a little bit and say
Okay.
there's nothing you could have said throughout the entire tenure of your employment at that company that could have prevented you from being laid off. I think that's one of the biggest fallacies that a lot of folks, and again, I think this is where sometimes I see a little bit of the divide between folks who have and haven't been laid off. You have no control. And the same is true when you have freelancing clients. You actually have no control as to whether or not that freelancing client is going to renew your contract or fire you next month. But the same is true of a corporate job. You have no control. You can be a top performer. The same was true of me. I was a top performer. I had recently gotten a new role within Facebook that I had secured. And it was definitely like an increase in terms of scope. And it has nothing to do with performance in most cases. And I think because of that reason, because you are giving up so much agency if you only have one corporate job, the best way you can take back agency is by starting to build a portfolio career. And like, I like to think of my career as, not being tied to one specific thing. Like my career is literally the culmination of all of these different things that I have. And I kind of, it's become a running joke now. When people ask me what I do, I just say, I'm the lady with 9 jobs. Truly, I just collect jobs. And, I'll get into the how in just a bit. But I think me doing that makes me feel very much in control over my entire career. Because while I can't control any one facet of my career, I can control like that umbrella of like how many clients I'm going to work with, how much business development am I going to continue to do while working with my existing clients to ensure that I have a pipeline of new clients should one of them churn. Things like that. It's just a great way to take back some of that agency. So that's a lot of what I learned from my layoff experience. And I think to your point, yes, there's so many folks who are going through layoffs right now and they're not able to secure full-time employment. So in order to bridge the gap between their previous full-time role and their next full-time role, they're taking on consulting work. They're looking to get into freelancing, but they don't know how to get into it. So I love sharing my story here too, because it's not super glamorous. And I'm not going to be the person that's going to sit here and tell you, you need to set up an LLC right away. You need to invest money in a lawyer and a coach and build this crazy infrastructure to build your business first, because how I got started first was just as a sole proprietor. So it's very easy to register as a sole proprietor in your state. It's something you do directly, with the IRS. And I had a tax accountant that I worked with to help guide me in that direction. But once you have your IEN number or EIN number, again, the nomenclature, it's still like, I'm not like a true expert, because the thing that I was an expert in first was like, I knew that I could deliver value to clients. And then once I was able to drive proof of concept that I could deliver value to clients as like a free agent, that's when some of this stuff followed, where I started to build out more of that infrastructure of being a business owner. So that would be my recommendation to folks is, rather than getting overwhelmed or bogged down with the details of, I need a website, I need an LLC, let's make sure that you can appeal to clients and that there's a very clear value exchange between what you can offer and what they need. And then from there, you can start to build out some of these more robust systems. I think the number one question I get is, okay, if I don't have a website, how do I get clients? I think there's a couple ways. The ways that I did it, and I know that this is there's kind of 2 thoughts on this matter, but I like freelancing platforms, especially as you're just starting, as you're someone who's just trying to start to get your bearings on it. I got my first clients on Upwork, which is a freelancing platform. Yep, it's free to use. I will caution, like, it is very saturated. There is a lot of talent on platforms like Upwork. Fiverr, I never did Fiverr, but that's a similar one. I know as well, there's like freelancer.com, there's actually a really good one, Pangea.com. That's one that's been released in the United States. That's a really good one. And what these platforms basically do is it's a marketplace, right? So there's a bunch of freelancers that sign up, they create profiles on these websites. And then there's a bunch of brands or companies that are looking for freelance talent, and they'll go and they'll post job postings. And then you basically, as a freelancer, sometimes you're invited to apply to those jobs. Other times you proactively reach out to companies when you see an opening, and all of the kind of matchmaking and interview facilitation, a lot of that happens on the platforms. For certain platforms, you also get paid through the platforms. And those
Yes.
platforms will often take a percentage cut of whatever earnings you have. Over time, it can end up being quite a substantial amount of your earnings that go to these platforms. But again, if someone's just getting started and they're like, I don't even know where to start in terms of finding clients, I think Upwork and other platforms of the sort are a great way for you to understand, okay, these are what job postings look like. Maybe when I'm going around and I'm building up my one sheet for the first time, maybe this is what I include in terms of my scope of services, because this is what I'm seeing for these freelancing job things. Like, you just start to be able to build that frame of reference through working on platforms like this. You also start to narrow in on the types of companies that are responding to you and are looking for your profile of talent. And you can also secure your first few clients this way, and you can understand their problem statements and understand the ways that they need help, maybe above and beyond what they initially reached out to you about. So in my instance, because I previously worked at Facebook, I know a lot about performance marketing. That's actually where I've spent the bulk of my career, in performance and paid social marketing. So what I signed up to do on Upwork was I created a profile as a Facebook ads buyer, basically.
Okay.
And then I ended up matching with companies that were, small direct to consumer e-commerce businesses looking for someone to run and optimize their Facebook campaigns. I came on to do that for them. But then in the process, I realized, well, there's all these other things that they actually need help with in order to make the ads work better. They might need help with their website. They might need help understanding how to build out collection pages in Shopify. But the beautiful thing was they'd given me access to their Shopify. So I could actually go in and start to develop the skill set of understanding, okay, well, if I were to do this on behalf of this client, could I do it on behalf of other clients? So now when I come to clients and I say, oh, I can run performance or digital marketing, I include in there, I can help you understand, the optimal Shopify setup to improve CVR. I can help you understand your unit economics, because now I know how to pull reports in Shopify that show your costs as well as your sales. But I would have never known to offer those things had I not gotten in with some clients and understood the intricacies of their business and all the ways they needed help. So that's how I got my start. I got my start on Upwork, worked with a number of clients through there, and then after time, I just started to build out my own, services one sheet and reached out to clients directly. And I also got a lot of clients on a referral basis as well, which once you can get clients on a referral basis, that's the most ideal way to secure clients for sure.
I love that. It's something that it maps it out for people. I know I have conversations with people that have been in jobs for so long or been in industries for so long that they don't necessarily think about that as an option. There's a lot to unpack with it. One, some people will say, well, Upwork, it's like you said, saturation, but similar to where I talked about doing consulting work and working with the talent agencies where they would place me someplace, I got my hands-on experience by showing that I could actually do the work, and that's where I learned different platforms and different things. What you've described was going on to these platforms, and granted they are saturated, but it's a wealth of information there if you know what you're looking for. So if you're trying to figure out what kind of one pager do I need, go through and actually look and see what people have and look at how they're performing. Look at what they're saying their specialties are. Is it something that you can do, or is it something where you have to work your way up to it? One of the things that I say is, in order to be able to start a business, you technically need three things. You need the budget, the experience or the expertise, and time. You can start with two out of the three, but to be successful, you need to have all three. So if you have the budget and the time, then you can get the experience. If you have the time and the experience, then you can always be able to get some work to be able to build up your budget to then go out and start a business. There's so many things in there that I want people to be able to take away from it that I just want to pause for a moment and really shine a light on. Upwork, Fiverr, I don't necessarily like them as much because when I get on them, I get hit with a lot of different things, but I've also found some really great people on those platforms that were able to help me with projects and things like that. But it is a wealth of information on there. So if you don't know where to start there. One of the other things that I think that was really strong in what you said was not jumping with both feet. We both talked about it. I know all the things that I've learned over the years after jumping with both feet as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of things that I would have done differently. I went into starting my business knowing that I was going in to be a disruptor. And when I say disruptor, there's different types of entrepreneurs, but the disruptor is basically saying, yes, these things exist, but there's a better way to be able to go about it. And when you do that, you not only have to win over the audience, but you're competing against people that have systems in place, and they don't want you to be right, because if you're right and there is a better way to be able to do it, then they have to start looking at how they can change how they go about doing business. So in a way, you're taking money out of their pocket, not just as a competitor, but you're changing how things get done. And when you change the process, it's even more expensive than just taking a client.
Yeah.
So I found that there is no HR in entrepreneurship. So if you're on the corporate side, you can go to HR and say, listen, this person's doing this, 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 and this. So
Mm-hmm.
can you get them to take a step back? Can you get them off my back? There is none of that in entrepreneurship. So there are people that over the years that I thought I was really, really good with, and we had a great relationship. And as I refined my services and got further
Yeah.
into it, they started looking at me as a competitor. And I started noticing friends that we had in common started to pull back. And one of the things that I also noticed was, that person was someone that they would kind of bring other people in to fight a battle for them. So you have to know what you're kind of getting yourself into. As a disruptor, I knew that there were going to be certain things, certain challenges that I had to face. If you know that you're going into it and you have risk and you don't have the confidence or the wherewithal to be able to weather that storm, then you may want to go in as in a simulator. Go in and don't rock the boat. Find a way to kind of slice out a piece of what already exists for yourself. And then you can start looking at how to be able to expand from there. So I think knowing what your surrounding circumstances are is just as important as trying to figure out what it is that you want to be able to do, because you can figure out what you want to be able to do. But if you don't understand what kind of battle you're going to be walking into,
Yeah.
then you can set yourself up for failure. Thankfully, I've always been kind of that way. So, even when I was a kid, once I got tall enough to a certain extent, people say, oh, you have to play basketball. I'm like, so just because I'm tall, I have to play basketball?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you that I can do things another way. So every time someone tried to put me in a box, just naturally, my thing was, I'm going to go do the opposite thing because I don't like that you try to put that limit on me. So I'm used to that battle that I have to have. But a lot of people that are going to be venturing out into entrepreneurship may not have that. And
Yeah.
they may not have that understanding.